You won't believe how far one young woman went to keep a secret from her family, a secret that could change the rest of her life forever, and you won't believe what her boyfriend did when he finally discovered the truth. But before we get there, let me take you back to where it all began, because this story is not just about love, it is about family, prejudice, sacrifice, and the shocking moment when one decision turns everything upside down. So lean in and listen carefully, because this is one of those stories that could have been taken straight out of a movie, but it happened right here in the United States, in a suburban town where appearances meant everything and family names carried more weight than people realized. And in the middle of all of it was a young woman named Emily, a bright, ambitious 26-year-old who came from a family that had always cared more about reputation than reality. Now Emily grew up in a home where tradition was everything. Her father was a successful businessman who ran a chain of real estate agencies across the state. Her mother was heavily involved in the church and the community, and together they raised their children to present a certain image, polished, perfect, and according to their rules. But there was one unspoken rule in Emily's family that overshadowed everything else. They believed in sticking to their own kind. They had strong opinions about who their children should marry, and while they never came out and said it directly in public, inside the house they often made comments about race, culture, and acceptable matches. So Emily grew up in an environment where she knew that falling in love with someone outside of what her parents considered acceptable would bring disaster. Still, Emily was independent. She was college educated, working as a marketing manager in a fast-growing tech company in Boston, and she believed in making her own choices. It was during one of her company's networking events that she met Marcus, a tall, kind-hearted, and driven man who worked as an architect. Marcus had a smile that lit up the room. He was confident but not arrogant, and from the moment they shook hands, Emily felt something she had never felt before. They talked all night about their dreams, their careers, and even about their favorite childhood memories. And by the time the event was over, Emily knew she wanted to see him again. One coffee date turned into dinners, dinners turned into weekends together, and before long Emily and Marcus were inseparable. But there was one shadow hanging over their relationship. Marcus was black, and Emily knew her parents would never accept him, at least not right away. She remembered the sharp comments her father used to make when interracial couples walked by at the mall. She remembered her mother's disapproving looks when a neighbor's daughter married outside of what the family called tradition. So instead of being honest, Emily made a choice that would haunt her for years. She decided to keep Marcus a secret. At first it seemed harmless. She simply didn't mention him at family dinners. When her parents asked about her personal life, she said she was too busy focusing on work. When Marcus suggested coming over for Thanksgiving, Emily quickly made excuses about how her family usually traveled. Marcus, being understanding, didn't push too hard. He believed that when the time was right, Emily would introduce him. But months passed, then a year, and Marcus started to wonder if Emily was ashamed of him. Still, he loved her deeply and decided to give her space. Meanwhile, Emily lived in constant fear of being discovered. She would change Marcus's name to something neutral in her phone in case her mother glanced at her texts. She avoided taking too many pictures with him on social media, and she always carried a sinking guilt inside her whenever Marcus would talk about building a future together, because deep down she wanted that too. She wanted to marry him, start a family with him, and live freely. But the thought of her parents' reaction made her chest tighten with dread. Things became even more complicated when Emily's younger sister, Claire, announced that she was engaged. Claire's fiancé came from a wealthy family, and their upcoming wedding was being planned like a grand social event. Emily's parents were thrilled, and suddenly they began turning their attention to Emily, reminding her that she wasn't getting any younger, that it was time she found a nice man from a good family. Every conversation at the dinner table became more uncomfortable. Emily would smile, nod, and quietly excuse herself, but inside she felt trapped between the love of her life and the approval of her family. Marcus, meanwhile, had been saving up. He had been working on big architectural projects, and his career was flourishing. He often spoke about his dream of buying a house, not just for himself but for them, a place where they could build a future together. Every time he mentioned it, Emily's heart swelled with both joy and fear. Joy because she wanted it, fear because she knew buying a house together would mean she could no longer hide him. She tried to stall the conversation, but Marcus's determination grew stronger. "I want to show you that I'm serious, Em," he said one night as they sat on his couch, his arm wrapped around her shoulders. "I don't just want to date you. I want to build with you." Emily smiled, kissed him, and said she felt the same, but when she got home that night she cried because she knew she was living a double life. Things came to a head during Claire's bridal shower. where Emily's mother pulled her aside and said, "Sweetheart, you need to think about your future. Your sister has found someone wonderful. When are you going to bring home a man we can be proud of?" The words stung like knives. Emily nodded and excused herself to the restroom, pulling out her phone and texting Marcus, "I can't do this anymore, I need to figure something out." Marcus, confused, called her immediately, and that was the night Emily confessed the truth. She told him about her family's prejudice, about her fear, about why she had kept him a secret for nearly 2 years. Marcus listened in silence, his jaw tightening, his chest rising and falling heavily. When she finished, he didn't yell, he didn't walk away, he simply said, "So all this time you've been hiding me because of them?" Emily's eyes filled with tears. "It's not because of you, it's because I'm scared of losing my family." Marcus nodded slowly, then said something that would change everything. "I love you, Emily, but I can't be your secret anymore. If you want a life with me, you have to choose it." The silence after those words was deafening. Emily begged for time. Marcus agreed but told her he couldn't wait forever. Weeks passed, and Emily struggled more than ever. She would go to family events and hear her father talk about family legacy, then come home to Marcus who would speak about designing their dream home, 2 different worlds pulling her in opposite directions. Until one day Marcus told her to meet him at a property on the edge of town. When Emily arrived, her jaw dropped. Standing in front of her was a beautiful 2-story house with a porch and a big yard. Marcus smiled and handed her a set of keys. "It's ours," he said. Emily was speechless, her hands trembled as she held the keys. "Marcus, this is incredible, but why now?" Marcus looked her in the eyes and said, "Because I'm done waiting for permission to love you openly. This is our future, Emily, but you have to decide if you're ready to live it with me." Emily's heart raced, tears streamed down her face. She knew this moment would define the rest of her life, but just as she was about to speak, her phone buzzed. She glanced down and froze. It was a text from her mother that read, "Where are you? We need to talk. I found out something you've been hiding." And Emily's blood went cold, her hands shook as Marcus stared at her with concern, and that was the exact moment everything she had been trying to avoid came crashing down, because the secret she thought she had so carefully kept from her family was no longer a secret at all, and what happened next would shock not only Emily but everyone around her, leaving her to wonder if love would be strong enough to survive what was about to unfold. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths. Emily stood frozen on the porch of the new house, her phone buzzing in her trembling hand, the words from her mother's message echoing in her mind like a siren. "I found out something you've been hiding." Her throat went dry, her heart pounded so loudly she could barely hear Marcus calling her name. She tried to steady her breath but her entire body shook as reality came crashing down. Marcus stepped closer, his hand brushing her arm. What's wrong? What did she say?" Emily couldn't bring herself to answer at first. She just handed him the phone with wide panicked eyes. Marcus read the message and his jaw tightened. He exhaled sharply then muttered, "So, it's out." Emily grabbed his hand desperately. "Marcus, you don't understand. If my mom knows, then my dad knows too. This could destroy everything. They'll hate me, they'll hate us." Marcus looked at her with a calm intensity. "Emily, they don't get to control your life anymore. You're not a teenager. You're a grown woman. You love me, I love you, that's all that should matter." But Emily felt like her world was collapsing. All the years of secrets, the careful lies, the balancing act. It had finally unraveled in one moment and she wasn't ready, not like this, not standing on the porch of the house her boyfriend just bought for them. She quickly typed back to her mother with shaking fingers, "What do you mean?" But before she could even put the phone away it buzzed again. This time her mother's reply was sharper. "Come home right now, we need to talk, don't make me come find you." Emily's stomach flipped. She had seen this side of her mother before, the side that didn't ask but demanded, the side that could turn an entire household upside down with one sentence. She looked at Marcus, tears threatening to spill. "She knows I have to go. If I don't, it'll be worse." Marcus grabbed her hand firmly. "Emily, you don't have to face this alone, I'll go with you." But Emily panicked. "No. Not yet, please, I need to try to talk to her first. If you come it'll explode before I can even explain." Marcus clenched his jaw, fighting the urge to push back, but the love in his eyes softened. He cupped her face. "Fine, but Emily, don't you dare let them shame you out of what we have." She nodded, kissed him quickly, and rushed to her car, her mind spinning the whole drive back to her parents' house. When she pulled into the driveway, the lights in the living room were on, and through the curtains she could see her mother pacing, her father sitting rigidly on the couch, arms crossed. The moment Emily stepped inside, the air was thick with tension. Her mother wasted no time. Emily Grace, sit down. Emily lowered herself onto the edge of the chair, her palms sweaty, her father's eyes bore into her like lasers. And then her mother said the words Emily had dreaded for years. We know about him. Emily swallowed hard. About who? She tried weakly, but her father slammed his hand on the arm of the couch. Don't play stupid with us, young lady. We know you've been sneaking around with some man, and not just any man. He spat the last part with venom. A black man, Emily? Do you have any idea how this makes us look? Emily flinched, the words cutting deep. Her mother folded her arms, shaking her head. We raised you better than this. Do you realize what people will say, what this will do to our family name, to your sister's wedding? You're going to ruin everything. Emily's chest tightened, her eyes burned, but for the first time in years she felt something inside her snap. She was tired of hiding, tired of being ashamed of the one person who made her truly happy. Her voice shook but grew steadier as she spoke. Marcus isn't some secret fling, he isn't some mistake, he's the man I love, he's kind, successful, and he treats me better than anyone ever has. And if you can't see that because of the color of his skin, then that's your problem, not mine. Her father's face turned red. He stood up, pointing a finger at her. You will not disrespect us in this house. You will end this nonsense immediately, or don't bother calling yourself our daughter. Emily gasped, tears spilling down her face. So you'd rather lose me completely than accept the man I love? Her father's silence was answer enough. Her mother whispered, Emily, please don't throw your life away on this. Think of your future children. Think of the family line. Do you really want to put them through the burden of not fitting in anywhere? Those words shattered something in Emily. She stood up, her hands trembling. No, Mom, what I don't want is to raise kids who think love should be judged by skin color. I won't let your prejudice become my prison. With that she turned and walked toward the door, her father's voice booming behind her. If you walk out that door with him, don't you dare come back. Emily froze for a second, her heart breaking, but she wiped her tears and stepped out into the night, slamming the door behind her. She drove back to Marcus, sobbing, and when he opened the door she collapsed into his arms. They know, Marcus, they know, and they said they'd cut me off. Marcus held her tightly, whispering, Then let them, you have me, we'll build our own life, we'll build our own family. Emily cried until she had no tears left, and by the morning something inside her shifted. She realized she couldn't keep living in fear. She had to choose love even if it meant losing her parents. So over the next few weeks she and Marcus began moving into the new house, painting walls, unpacking boxes, setting up furniture, each corner filled with laughter and hope. But underneath, Emily carried the heavy grief of being estranged from her family. Her mother would send short, cold texts every now and then. Think about what you're doing. It's not too late to change your mind. But Emily ignored them, focusing instead on her life with Marcus, until one day an unexpected invitation arrived in the mail, her sister Claire's wedding. Emily hadn't expected to be invited after the explosion with her parents, but the card came with a handwritten note from Claire that read, No matter what's happening, you're my sister. I want you there. Emily's heart ached. She wanted desperately to see her sister on her big day, but she also knew her parents would cause a scene if she showed up with Marcus. She debated for days. Marcus encouraged her. If Claire wants you there, you should go, but I won't let you walk into that lion's den alone. If we're building a life together, we face it together. Emily looked into his eyes, and for the first time she felt brave enough to say yes. So when the wedding day arrived, Emily and Marcus walked hand in hand into the grand ballroom. Whispers immediately rippled through the crowd, heads turned, gasps echoed, and at the front of the room Emily's parents froze in shock, her father's jaw clenched, her mother's face twisted in fury, but Claire's face lit up when she saw her sister. She ran to Emily, hugged her tightly and whispered, Thank you for coming. Marcus extended his hand politely to Claire and she smiled warmly, but the entire atmosphere shifted as Emily's parents stormed over. Her father hissing under his breath, How dare you embarrass us like this in front of all these people? Emily lifted her chin, her voice steady, I'm not embarrassing anyone, I'm standing with the man I love. Before her father could retort, the wedding coordinator announced it was time to begin, and the confrontation was cut short, for now. All through the ceremony, Emily could feel her parents' glares burning into her back, but Marcus held her hand firmly, grounding her. After the vows. During the reception, Emily tried to focus on celebrating her sister, but the tension was undeniable. Every relative had questions. Some whispered behind her back, others openly stared. Marcus handled it all with grace, shaking hands, smiling politely, even when the stares became hostile. But as the night wore on, Emily noticed her father speaking to several men in suits at the back of the room. Men she didn't recognize, they kept glancing at her and Marcus, whispering among themselves. Her stomach churned, something felt off, but she brushed it aside, trying not to ruin her sister's night. It wasn't until they stepped outside into the parking lot after the reception that things took a terrifying turn. A black SUV pulled up beside them, the windows tinted, and before Emily could react, two of the men she'd seen earlier stepped out. Blocking their path, Marcus instinctively moved in front of Emily, his voice calm but firm. "Can I help you?" One of the men smirked. "Yeah, you can help us by staying away from Emily. Her father doesn't want you around, you understand?" Emily's eyes widened in shock. "Dad sent you?" The man ignored her, staring directly at Marcus. "Walk away now before this gets ugly." Marcus's fists clenched at his sides, but he stayed calm. "I'm not going anywhere. Emily and I are together, you'll have to get over it." The man stepped closer, lowering his voice with menace. "Then you better be ready because her family isn't done with you yet." With that, the men got back into the SUV and drove off, leaving Emily shaking with fear. Marcus wrapped his arm around her, whispering, "It's okay, I've got you, they can't scare us." But Emily knew in her heart this was only the beginning. Her parents weren't going to let this go quietly, and the storm that was coming would be bigger than anything she had ever faced, a storm that could threaten not only their relationship but their very safety. And as she clung to Marcus in that dark parking lot, she couldn't help but wonder what her father was truly capable of, and whether love alone would be enough to withstand what was about to come crashing down on them. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths. Emily couldn't sleep for days after the wedding. Every time she closed her eyes she saw the black SUV pulling up, the cold eyes of the men her father had sent, the threat in their voices, and the way Marcus stood in front of her, calm on the outside but tense like a coiled spring. She had always known her father could be controlling, but this was something else. This was dangerous. Marcus tried to reassure her, telling her that nothing could shake what they had, but Emily's anxiety grew with every passing day. She found herself jumping whenever a car slowed down near their new house. She double-checked the locks 3 times before bed, and she kept replaying her father's words in her mind. "If you walk out that door with him, don't you dare come back." Her family wasn't just disapproving anymore, they were actively trying to tear her life apart. But despite the fear, Emily also felt a strange new strength. For the first time she wasn't hiding, she wasn't lying, she was standing openly beside the man she loved, and every time Marcus wrapped his arms around her she knew she had made the right choice. But that didn't make what was coming any easier. It started with small things. Marcus noticed his tires had been slashed one morning before work, Emily's mail went missing, neighbors began whispering that her father had been calling around town telling people lies about Marcus, saying he was a dangerous man with a shady background. Marcus tried to laugh it off at first, but when his company called him into a meeting to ask about allegations they'd heard, he knew this was more than gossip. Someone was deliberately trying to ruin his reputation. Marcus confronted Emily one evening as they sat in their living room surrounded by unopened boxes. I need to tell you something. Your father isn't just angry, he's pulling strings. Someone tried to get me removed from a major project at work. They're digging into my past, looking for anything they can use, and I know exactly who's behind it." Emily felt sick. "He wouldn't ruin your career, would he?" Marcus looked her straight in the eyes. "He already is, but I'm not going to let him destroy us." Emily buried her face in her hands. "This is all my fault. I should have stood up to him years ago. I should have told the truth." Marcus gently pulled her hands away. "No, this is not your fault. This is about him and his hate, not about us." But deep down Emily knew that every secret she'd kept had only given her father more power to twist the situation. A week later the situation escalated. Emily was leaving work when she noticed a black SUV parked across the street. Her stomach dropped. She tried to brush it off, but when she pulled onto the highway it followed her. Every lane change she made, every turn, the SUV stayed right behind. Her palms were sweaty, her chest tight. She finally pulled into a crowded grocery store parking lot, and only then did the SUV speed off. She sat in her car shaking, realizing this wasn't paranoia, she was being watched. When she told Marcus, he clenched his fists in rage. "That's it, I'm not sitting back anymore, we're going to the police." But when they tried to file a report, the officer behind the desk gave them a skeptical look. "Do you have proof? Do you have plates? We can't just investigate every SUV in the city." Emily's voice cracked. "But what if something happens before we get proof?" The officer shrugged. "Then call us if it does." Marcus left furious, but Emily left terrified. Her parents' influence in the community meant the police wouldn't take them seriously, and that night, Lying in Marcus's arms, she whispered, "What if they're trying to scare us into breaking up?" Marcus kissed her forehead. "Then they'll fail because I'm not going anywhere." Still, Emily couldn't shake the fear, and when her sister Claire called unexpectedly one afternoon, her voice trembling, Emily felt a new wave of dread. I need to tell you something. Dad's been talking to people, powerful people. He's saying Marcus is a threat, that he's only after you for money, he's planning something big, and he told Mom he'll never stop until Marcus is gone." Emily's hand tightened on the phone. "Gone? What do you mean gone?" Claire hesitated, then whispered, "I don't know, but you need to be careful. Promise me you'll be careful." Before Emily could press for more, Claire hung up in a rush, leaving Emily shaking. She turned to Marcus and told him everything. His expression hardened. "If your father wants a war, he picked the wrong man." Emily grabbed his arm. "Marcus, please don't fight fire with fire. We need to be smart. If we push too hard it could get dangerous." Marcus sighed, holding her close. "Then we'll outsmart him, but I won't let him take you from me." But the danger wasn't just looming anymore. It arrived on a stormy Thursday night. Emily and Marcus were sitting in their living room, the rain pounding against the windows, when suddenly there was a loud crash outside. They ran to the front window and saw flames. Someone had thrown a Molotov cocktail at Marcus's car. The fire spread quickly. Neighbors ran out shouting. Someone called the fire department. And as Emily clung to Marcus in horror, she saw it, a black SUV parked at the corner of the street, its headlights glowing through the rain. She pointed, "Marcus, it's them." But before he could run out, the SUV sped away, disappearing into the night. When the fire was finally put out, the car was destroyed. The police came again, this time taking the situation more seriously. But when Emily tried to tell them who she suspected, they exchanged glances and said, "Unless you have hard evidence, it'll be hard to prove." Marcus put an arm around her as she cried, whispering, "We're not safe here anymore, Em. They're not going to stop." That night Marcus made a decision. "We're going to fight back, not with violence but with truth. Your father wants to bury me with lies, but I'm going to expose him, all the shady deals he's done, all the money he's hidden. I know people who can dig." Emily's eyes widened. "Marcus, that could be dangerous. My dad has connections." Marcus shook his head. "So do I. He thinks I'm just some guy who'll roll over, but he doesn't know me. I'm not scared of him, and I'm not losing you." Emily looked at him with a mix of fear and admiration. Torn between wanting to keep him safe and wanting to finally be free of her father's control, she whispered, "If you do this, there's no going back." Marcus pulled her close. "Good, I don't want to go back." The following weeks became a blur of whispered phone calls, meetings with contacts, digging through records. Marcus uncovered pieces of her father's empire that Emily had never imagined: secret accounts, illegal land deals, bribes paid to city officials. The man who had built his reputation on respectability had a house of cards ready to collapse. Emily was terrified of what would happen if her father found out what they were doing, but at the same time she felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this nightmare could finally end, maybe the truth could set them free. Until one evening, Emily came home from work to find the front door ajar. Her stomach dropped. She stepped inside cautiously, calling out, "Marcus?" But there was no answer. The house was eerily silent. Her chest tightened as she walked through the living room, then the kitchen, then up the stairs, but Marcus was nowhere to be found. Panic surged through her. She pulled out her phone to call him when she noticed something on the dining room table, an envelope with her name on it. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside was a single piece of paper with a typed message that made her blood run cold. "If you want to see Marcus again, meet us tomorrow night at the old warehouse on River Street. Come alone." Emily's knees buckled. The phone slipped from her hand. She knew instantly who had taken him, and she knew her father had finally crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. Her mind raced. Should she call the police? Should she call Claire? Should she walk straight into the trap? All she knew was that Marcus's life was in danger, and that the decision she made in the next 24 hours would change everything, because for the first time it wasn't just about love, it was about survival. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths. Emily stood in the middle of her dining room, the letter trembling in her hands, her entire body cold as ice. The words burned into her mind. "If you want to see Marcus again, meet us tomorrow night at the old warehouse on River Street. Come alone." Her breathing grew shallow, panic clawed at her chest. Marcus was gone, taken, and the note made it clear this wasn't just intimidation anymore, this was war. She collapsed into the nearest chair, tears streaming down her face, her thoughts spinning out of control. Every second that passed felt like a countdown. Every shadow in the house seemed to whisper danger. She knew her father had pushed too far, but she also knew going to the police might not save Marcus in time. Her family's influence in the city meant they could bury reports, twist stories, and make her look hysterical. Emily clutched the note, whispering to herself, "What do I do? What do I do?" over and over until her phone buzzed. It was her sister Claire, calling late. Emily answered with a shaky voice. "Claire, something's happened." Claire immediately sounded panicked. I don't have much time. I overheard Mom and Dad arguing." "He's furious. He said Marcus needs to disappear for good." "I don't know what that means, but you need to be careful." Emily broke down sobbing. "Claire, they've taken him. I found a note. They want me to come to the warehouse tomorrow night." There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end. Then Claire whispered, "Oh my God, Em, you can't go. It's a trap. They'll hurt you too." Emily shook her head even though Claire couldn't see. "I don't care. I'm not leaving Marcus. I can't lose him, Claire. He's my life." Claire's voice cracked. "Then don't go alone. Promise me you won't go alone." But before Emily could respond, Claire whispered urgently, "I have to go. Mom's coming." And the line went dead, leaving Emily in silence once more. That night Emily barely slept, her mind tortured with images of Marcus tied up, beaten, begging for her. She kept replaying every moment they had shared, the nights of laughter, the quiet mornings with coffee, the moment he handed her the keys to their new home. She couldn't let it end like this. By morning she made a decision. If her father wanted her alone, then that's exactly what she'd appear to give him. But she wasn't walking in blind. She gathered everything Marcus had uncovered about her father's shady business deals, stuffing copies into a folder and hiding it in her bag. If something happened to her, she wanted the truth to get out. She also made one more desperate call, not to the police, but to someone Marcus had once mentioned, an old friend from college who now worked with federal investigators on corruption cases. She left a voicemail, her voice trembling. "This is Emily, Marcus's girlfriend. He's in danger. I think my father is behind it. I'm going to the warehouse on River Street tonight. If I don't make it out, please don't let him disappear." She hung up quickly, praying it was enough, praying someone would come if she couldn't save him herself. As the sun set, Emily drove to the warehouse, her hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. The industrial district was nearly abandoned at night, the buildings looming like silent monsters. The warehouse sat at the end of a cracked road, its windows dark, its doors rusted. She pulled into the gravel lot, her heart pounding so loud it drowned out every other sound. She clutched her bag, whispered a prayer, and stepped inside. The air smelled of oil and dust. Her footsteps echoed against the concrete floor. "Marcus," she called, her voice trembling. No answer, only silence. Then suddenly, a light flickered on overhead, blinding her for a moment, and from the shadows stepped two men in dark jackets, the same ones from the wedding parking lot. Emily's stomach dropped. "Where is he? Where's Marcus?" One of the men smirked. "You came good. Your father said you would. He's waiting." They gestured toward a staircase at the far end. Emily's legs shook as she walked, every step heavier than the last. At the top of the stairs stood her father, his figure tall and imposing, his face hard as stone, and behind him, tied to a chair with ropes cutting into his wrists, was Marcus, bruised but alive, his eyes locking on Emily with fierce determination. "Emily, don't," he shouted, but her father silenced him with a sharp gesture. Emily's voice broke. "Dad, please let him go. This isn't you." Her father's laugh was bitter. "You don't know me as well as you think, Emily. Everything I've built, everything I've worked for, I won't let it be destroyed because my daughter chose to throw away her future on this." He pointed at Marcus with contempt. "Do you know what people are saying about me already? Do you know the damage you've done to our family name?" Emily's tears streamed freely. "This isn't about reputation, this is about control. You don't care about me, you care about what people think, but I love him, Dad, and nothing you do will change that." Her father's face twisted with rage. He turned to Marcus. "You should have walked away when you had the chance, but now you'll pay for dragging her down with you." He nodded at the men, who stepped forward, pulling knives from their belts. Emily's scream tore through the air. "No. Stop. If you hurt him, I swear I'll expose everything." She yanked the folder from her bag, holding it up with shaking hands. "All of it, your deals, your accounts, your bribes, I have it right here, and if anything happens to Marcus, it'll go straight to the authorities." Her father froze, his eyes narrowing. "You don't have the guts." Emily's voice trembled but grew stronger. "Try me." For a long moment the warehouse was silent, the only sound Marcus's ragged breathing. Then her father stepped closer, his eyes dark and cold. "You think you're clever, but you don't know who you're dealing with. You don't know how powerful my friends are. You can't win this, Emily, and if you push me you'll regret it." Emily stood her ground, her entire body trembling but her voice steady. "I'm not scared of you anymore." Suddenly, headlights blazed through the warehouse windows, tires screeched outside, multiple car doors slammed, and heavy boots echoed on the gravel. Emily's heart leapt. Someone had come, but before she could even process what was happening, her father grabbed her by the arm, yanking her close, his voice low and venomous. "You just ruined everything, and if you think those people outside will save you, you're dead wrong," Marcus shouted, straining against the ropes. "Emily, don't let him take you." The men at her father's side drew guns as voices outside shouted commands. "Federal agents! Drop your weapons!" The warehouse exploded into chaos, men shouting, guns raised, Emily screaming, Marcus fighting against his restraints, her father gripping her arm tighter as he hissed in her ear. "You have no idea what you've unleashed, and it's too late to stop it now." And just as the doors burst open and red laser dots swept across the walls, a single deafening gunshot rang out, plunging the warehouse into pandemonium. Emily screamed Marcus's name as the world around her blurred into chaos, and in that split second she had no idea who had been hit, who had pulled the trigger, or if the love of her life had just been ripped away forever. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths. The gunshot cracked through the warehouse like thunder, the sound so loud it seemed to shatter the air itself. Emily's scream echoed off the concrete walls as her knees nearly buckled. She spun toward Marcus, terrified he had been the one struck, but to her relief he was still struggling against the ropes, alive, wide-eyed, his gaze fixed on something behind her. Emily turned and saw one of her father's men clutching his shoulder, the gun falling from his hand as red laser dots swarmed his chest. The federal agents poured into the building shouting commands. "Drop your weapons!" On the ground now, chaos erupted, her father's men scattered, some dropping their guns, others trying to run. The sharp crack of more gunfire rang out, shouts layered on shouts. Emily was shoved aside as her father yanked her back by the arm, snarling, "You betrayed your own blood, you'll regret this." But before he could drag her further, two agents tackled him to the ground, forcing his hands behind his back as he shouted in rage, "Do you know who I am? You can't do this to me. I built this city." The agents ignored him, snapping the cuffs onto his wrists, reading him his rights as Emily stood frozen, shaking, the weight of years of fear pressing down and then lifting all at once, tears streaming down her face. She stumbled toward Marcus, who was still tied to the chair, his face streaked with sweat, his eyes locked on hers. "Emily," he whispered hoarsely, "are you okay?" She dropped to her knees, fumbling with the ropes, sobbing, "Forget me, I thought I lost you, I thought." But before she could finish, an agent stepped forward with a knife, cutting Marcus free. He immediately pulled Emily into his arms, holding her so tight she could feel his heartbeat pounding against her cheek. She clung to him like she'd never let go, the warehouse around them dissolving into noise, arrests and shouting, but for that moment they were in their own world, alive, together. Later that night, sitting in a sterile federal office under bright fluorescent lights, Emily gave her full statement, handing over every document Marcus had uncovered, every folder, every account, every deal her father had hidden. The agents listened intently, nodding, recording, building their case. Marcus sat beside her, his hand never leaving hers, and when it was finally over, the lead agent said, "You've done the right thing, both of you. This is bigger than your family, this is corruption that's been poisoning this city for years. It ends now." Emily nodded, exhausted but resolute. She glanced at Marcus, seeing pride and love in his eyes, and for the first time she truly believed the nightmare was over. The trial that followed was brutal. Her father's lawyers fought tooth and nail, trying to paint Marcus as the manipulator, trying to smear Emily's reputation. But the evidence was overwhelming. Witness after witness came forward, documents stacked taller than Emily herself, and in the end the jury returned swiftly, guilty on all counts: fraud, bribery, conspiracy, intimidation. Her father was sentenced to decades in prison, his empire dismantled piece by piece, his name dragged not through glory, but through disgrace. Her mother wept in the courtroom, not for justice, but for the life of privilege and reputation slipping away. Emily sat silently, her hand in Marcus's, knowing there was no victory in watching her father fall, only relief that his reign of fear was finally over. Months later, Emily and Marcus stood together on the porch of their house, the one he had bought for their future, the sun setting in warm gold across the yard. Emily leaned into him, her voice soft. "I never thought we'd survive all that, but we did." Marcus kissed her forehead. "Because love like this doesn't break, It bends, it hurts, it fights, but it doesn't break. Emily smiled through her tears. I just wish it hadn't taken losing my family to find out what strength really means. Marcus held her tighter. Maybe one day they'll understand, but if they don't, we'll build our own family, one built on love, not hate. Emily nodded, closing her eyes, knowing that while the scars of the past would always remain, they no longer defined her future. Her future was standing right beside her. And so Emily learned the hardest, most beautiful truth of her life, that real love demands courage, that silence in the face of prejudice only feeds its power, and that sometimes breaking away from the chains of family expectation is the only way to truly be free. She learned that reputation fades, wealth crumbles, power corrupts, but love, the kind of love willing to endure threats, shame, and fire, love endures, and it is worth everything. Love is strongest when it is tested, but hiding it out of fear only gives hate more room to grow. True freedom comes when we choose love over prejudice, courage over silence, and truth over lies, even when it means standing up to the people closest to us. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths.